All right, folks, we have a new approach we're going to take. I'm going to tear into the system here. I've already got it open. We're going to take out the high performance, as far as that word can be stretched, using this somewhat antiquated architecture worth of GPUs I've got in here. Well, plus a 5070, so it's really two 3090s and a 5070. We're going to go to the lowest end I can produce, which right now I've got a GTX 1080 and a RTX 3050. I think between the two, you can get 14 gigabytes of VRAM. I think one of them is before they had ray tracing. So let's dive in here, do a little surgery on this system first. So this big old bar here in the middle, and this Pantos Server Pro 2, or Pro 2 Server Edition, pardon. It's excellent space for pretty much anything you'd want to do, and then some. And it's real convenient, but it isn't especially configured to do what I'm doing, which is tear it apart every 5 minutes. So to keep that in mind when I decide we're going to have to put it back in place. Two tools I figure that are handy. One big screwdriver and one smaller one, but ideally they both have magnetism. I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but going in and out of jobs, you find that you've lost your magnetic driver or head attachment polarization. And I didn't even really think much about that until the toolkit that I ordered came with a magnet and instructions that said rub the tip on this end to get your polarity back, and if you want to demagnetize, rub it on the other end. I just kind of figured either it was or wasn't magnetic. So interesting bit there. If that saved anyone a headache, I hope. Tightening these down so they don't wobble off. All right, now we're into the guts of the system. Trying to decide if I should leave one of these cards in here, because I don't know how many of y'all have done this before, but when you shift a lot of cards around and just back and forth before you do it too much, I'm sure it's not good at all, but you're having to retrain your system in order for it to understand how to post, like where's the graphics coming from this time. It retrains the lanes and it tries to get a fresh understanding. And depending on the magnitude of the change, like in this case, it's going to be quite an order of magnitude because we're changing all the graphics outputs. It can actually cause a post hang or pre-post hang. And so it'll be somewhere lagging around memory training. I don't know, something I've observed. All right. And got the 3090s, both of them loose. They're not twins, so they wouldn't pair up well even if I had the NVLink. But when I run them in Windows, they do get triggered to work as a pair pretty well for NVIDIA's SLI compatibility. Even the system itself detects them as one single count of VRAM when you run the system summary. Of course, they double up when you're running performance. All right, out comes this heavy Founders Edition. I would guess maybe 4 5 pounds. That's not stretching it. Tend to exaggerate when it's in your hand. All right, pop this aside. and its replacement is ready to go. I still have another 3090 to pull, but I want to get this out in the open. This is the GTX 1080, 8 gigabytes, GDDR5. And so, again, in its day, that was a heck of a card. In its day, though, I wasn't making videos about it either, so I wasn't around for that. I was around, but not doing this. All right. There we go. Those little snips, little clips, so I can do clamps on the end. It can be kind of a pain. All right. And stay in the habit of putting these away with a little bit of tact so they don't fall on the ground. Otherwise, there'll be no switching back from this new configuration. All right. Careful with that. This is another useful tool I've found at popping loose those clips that snag the cards into the PCIe slots. They're hard to reach. You try to jam a screwdriver down there, you can end up fighting with them. This is just thin enough, kind of like a flathead. If you're not carrying a flathead, you want to make sure the diameter is not too much. This works real well. Of course, it works better when you loosen the screws first. Like I said before, I can't guarantee that this will fire up and gracefully load as it would with its previous GPU configuration, because again, it's got to retrain the graphics. And so it's going to likely confuse the system for a second. And by some likelihood, could not even lead to a post at all and end up in one of those circular Windows repair diagnostic blue screen loops. In which case, I hope I don't just surrender early and reinstall Windows and try first a different GPU config. Let's hope we don't come to that. Otherwise, I got to sit there and reinstall everything. Of course, that might make for some good video content, huh? All right, what are we up against? That's it. Okay, the screw here actually was kind of masquerading its second role of holding this card in. Now, that is a very, very naked system. And the way this computer is set up, it wouldn't even, unless you hooked the custom VGA port up, this would be it. You couldn't run it. All right. Now, here we go. I'm going to throw it in slot 1 and hope for the best. Again, like I was saying, there was a time when this card was the premium card. It may have been 2016 or so, but that also kind of speaks a bit more to how fast this industry moves. And you think you've got the premier system one day, and the next day you're finding out your card's on the list of let's put some junk in here and see how it runs. The junk, I shouldn't call it that. There we go. Again, I'm going to go through all the trouble of lining up the front side bar with the support brackets and everything. It's only going to be this test run, assuming it boots up swimmingly. We'll know that soon enough. And after this GTX 1080 run, we're going to try the 3050 of the Ampere architecture days, which I'm sure would have probably been an all right stepping stone before going to this one, because it had previously trained to boot up the display outputs using Ampere, although I don't know if that makes all the difference. Okay, now let's see if I can lift this bear back up. All's in good order here. Yes, yes, and SATA drivers. Okay, it's sidetracked too easily. All right, here we go. I'll get some real good footage if I get slippery hands here. And it's up. So, throw the monitors back in place. I still got a chance to break something. No, I've done this enough. I'm just kind of dating the idea at this point. Another config I set up just to keep monitors in order, running this wire organizer. No, it looks like one of them's going to have to go. It takes two DisplayPort inputs and a single HDMI. So, let's see. Which comes out of where? Alright, so we'll pull this one and go with these two. Think of all I've done to try to get away from HDMI. Now would have been the best time to have it. Okay. Monitors, power. Power's good. Alright. Get the Ethernet hooked up. And volume. So the speakers. You don't really have to take all this stuff out to do this. I do it because I'm trying to lay this big old server on its side. So it looks like it's ready to go. Leave the case open, and there we go. Fired up. Okay, now I'm on this side. This is where we find out how easy it's going to be on the reboot with this single GTX 1080 installed. You can see it going through its pre-post codes. If it gets a 64 is a good sign right before AA or all okay. I've seen it hang on D3 before. Ooh, that's a nasty sound. Probably from the retrofitted thermal light. Ah, shoot. Yep, that's what I was worried about. Looks like we're hung on. Well, if it's showing all okay, it must be because it's trying to fast boot and it's getting stuck on display. I'll try it with, oh, did it clear? No. All right. That's solid white. I want to try this before I clear CMOS, excuse me. Corrected on that earlier. Right. And I'm getting hitched on the display. All right, so do a hard power cycle. These are some of the fun things you figure out trying to fool around in different ways with these systems. Here's CMOS on the back, CMOS, and kill the power. And one way to flush the remaining voltage out is you pull the cable, make sure it's got no input power, and you hit the power button itself. So it's going to try to engage the system as if you're starting it. So let's see if these two parallel don't get it back up and running. Excuse me. If you could see the area walking through here, it makes sense. All right. And let's try take 3, go. Now hopefully the clear CMOS got it refreshed enough to where it can take a kind of an uncached look at the display available, and it can retrain to launch. If we get stuck here, I suspect I'm going to have to do some card shuffling again. Oh, we clear it. It can be misleading in this workstation board because it runs through the numbers more than once. So you see it come off of the display hang. You could just as easily go revisit that. It's hard to, after a few runs, you'll notice things like C2 followed by C8 runs quickly through the D, D, F, F, and then hits like 64, 61. But then if it doesn't hit post and clear, it'll cycle these numbers again. And there's a decoder in your manual, so. Mm-hmm. Oh, the O2. I have not seen this one before. All right, we're going to have to figure out what's going on here, and then I'll jump back on when I hopefully have gotten to the bottom of it. All right, hang in there. Make it part 1 of 2. Thanks for joining. Share, like, subscribe, comment, thoughts on troubleshooting, anything, be helpful. Thanks.